Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central, and we're back with another episode of Guns N' Roses True Story. So the song we're talking about today is from their 1993 album, The Spaghetti Incident. So it's their cover of the Nazareth tune, Hair of the Dog. So Hair of the Dog was one of 3 singles released from The Spaghetti Incident, along with Since I Don't Have You and Ain't It Fun. So it was released as a single on December 11th, 1993. And it was on the mainstream rock charts for 13 weeks. It peaked at number 11. And also the single that was released for the song also featured Estranged as well. Now Axl Rose and Slash were interviewed on Rockline in early 1994, and they talked a bit about the history of the song and what it meant to the band. Here's what Axl and Slash had to say about Hair of the Dog.
You're waiting. Really? Well, we'll be eagerly awaiting a chance to hear it some point down the line. Tell me about the Spaghetti Incident. How did this thing come together, and what did you want to do with this?
I think the easiest way to say it, it wasn't supposed to be taken all that seriously in the beginning. It was some songs that, it started out with some songs that we were jamming that we were going to make an EP out of, and then we started adding more songs into it, and eventually it turned into a 13-song record, which obviously is a result on the CD.
Right.
We had an idea of this going into the first album, that there were some songs, what we called punk to us or whatever, that we wanted to record a long time ago, that we wanted people to hear, that we liked a lot. And there's songs that Izzy and I liked, there's songs that Slash and I liked, there's songs that Duff and Izzy liked, and things like that. And then it turned into, we had a collection over about 9 years of over 10 songs that we really liked, and we realized we could make an album instead of just a little EP and throw it there.
Would you say that what is on the Spaghetti Incident is fairly representative of what the influences were to Guns N' Roses in the early days?
It's just a cup. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket. Yeah.
Some, but the energy of the songs and stuff. But it's some of the influences that I don't think mainstream radio and a lot of, like, I don't know, Midwest and things like that, people haven't really heard these songs.
Right. The funny thing about it, though, is that when we started doing this, it was just to alleviate the pressure of making the Illusions records.
Really?
I mean, really, when it comes down to it, we were jamming stuff in the studio on off time, and that's how it started.
I was like going, well, jam on these songs, kind of trying to like steer it into a project for later.
The first song we're going to play tonight is Hair of the Dog, which I guess was part of the early GNR repertoire, right?
Actually, that goes back to Hollywood Rose.
Yeah, we played it only a few times, a very long time ago. And when we were in the studio finishing up the recording of the song, Slash is going, this is cool, because he's the one that brought it to our attention to do it for this album. And Duff reminded him, he goes, remember the old days, this was cool? And Duff reminds him, you hated this song. You hated it twice. And Slash goes, oh yeah. Which was very strange when he brought it to us. We got to do this song. It's like, you hated it. I was confused for months.
A little Hair of the Dog to bit ya. Guns N' Roses on Rockline. Just a little tip of the hat there to Day Tripper at the end there. That's Hair of the Dog, of course, originally done by Nazareth. That time around, Guns N' Roses on the brand new album, The Spaghetti Incident.
And Slash was also interviewed by MTV News, and here's what he had to say about Hair of the Dog.
The album is pretty harsh. It's pretty explicit lyric-wise and attitude-wise, and the subject matter of the whole thing. I'm real proud of the Nazareth tune, Hair of the Dog, because it has a history. I mean, all the songs have a history to it, but since we used to play that a long time ago, I never would have thought that it would be on a record for Guns N' Roses coming out, however many years later.
So Duff was also interviewed in Raw Magazine in September of '93. He said, we did Hair of the Dog by Nazareth. It turned out really brilliant because Don McCafferty, their singer from Nazareth, is one of Axl's idols. And Gilby Clarke also commented on the song. He said, when we were first doing it, it was supposed to be like a punk rock covers record, he continued, but then it just kind of became a covers record, and I did suggest a T-Rex. Back then I was wearing a T-Rex shirt like every single day, and Matt, you saw him, used to joke, okay, we get it, we got it, you've worn that shirt every day. And I did make a comment about Hair of the Dog because I always thought Axl sounded like the singer of Nazareth, not even knowing that the band actually played that song way before I got in the band. And Guns N' Roses have performed the song twice live, so The best known example was at the Rip magazine party in 1990. It was at the Hollywood Palladium, and there's video footage of it on YouTube. So the actual performance also included Sebastian Bach. Also present were Slash, Lars Ulrich from Metallica, James Hetfield, and Kirk Hammett. So Axl sang Piece of Me and Hair of the Dog, while Sebastian Bach sang Whiplash, with James singing the second. And the band Guns N' Roses have actually performed the song live once. So in 1988, Guns were playing the Winnipeg Arena in Canada, and there is a clip of them performing Hair of the Dog. I've linked to it down below. And while you guys are on Franz N' Roses' page, go subscribe to his channel. He's got a great Guns N' Roses page. Now, Guns N' Roses' history with Nazareth doesn't just end with them covering Hair of the Dog. When they were actually in the pre-production sessions for Appetite for Destruction, they did work with Nazareth guitarist Manny Charlton. So Guns N' Roses were auditioning different producers, so they went to Sound City, which was the same studio that Dave Grohl did his documentary Sonic Highways about, and they cut a couple songs, and in fact Manny Charlton was actually interviewed for Mark Cantor's book Reckless Road, and he's done several interviews where he's actually referenced the sessions with Guns N' Roses. Now, one of the things that really stands out about Appetite for Destruction is that it took the band a really long time to find a producer that they wanted to work with before they eventually settled on Mike Klink. And a lot of the producers that were recommended for Appetite came through Geffen executive Tom Zutaut, who actually discovered the band back in the LA club days. So Guns N' Roses first set off to work with Nazareth guitarist Manny Charlton. They had worked together at Sound City, and they had worked on several songs including November Rain and Welcome to the Jungle. So Manny Charlton was chosen because Axl was a huge Nazareth fan. And if you guys, of course, have heard the Spaghetti Incident, you would have known that Guns N' Roses covered Hair of the Dog on that album. And there's actually an interview where Manny Charlton talked about his time he spent working with Guns N' Roses. So I've linked to that interview down below. Now, in Mark Cantor's book Reckless Road, he actually interviewed Manny Charlton, and he talked about how Tom Zutaut actually came over to Scotland and asked him to actually produce the band. And so basically the story goes, Tom Zutaut came over to Scotland and asked me if I was interested in producing the band. At that time, I was recording an album with Nazareth called Cinema, so I had commitments of my own band, and the schedule was kind of tight. He asked me to come to LA and meet the band anyways. The board mixes that Tom brought with him weren't very good. I couldn't hear the vocals properly. I said to Tom, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's go to the studio, cut their set live, straight to 2-track, and I can listen to the songs and get a handle on it. When I arrived in LA, I was supposed to see them the next day for rehearsals. Tom picked me up to go to the rehearsal space, and there was nobody there. None of them even showed up. We hung around for a while, and I looked at him and asked, are you sure you know what you're doing here? To me, that was not very professional to have a guy travel 6,000 miles to see a rehearsal, and none of them even showed up. We went to the studio for 3 days. I asked them to cut their set, everything that they were doing at the time. We just cut it live off the floor studio. Axl was stuck in between 2 studio doors with a little window watching the band, and he gave it his all. He didn't bitch about it, and there were no tantrums about not being able to perform. He just got on with it. Manny talked about some of the standout songs he remembered from his actual sessions with Guns N' Roses. He said, I thought the standout songs were Welcome the Jungle and November Rain. Axl was playing the piano, and Izzy was doing a little bit of background vocals, and it was fantastic. That's when I went, wow, there's proper songwriting skills there, and I thought I would really like to produce the album. Unfortunately for Manny, things did not end up working out that way, so Manny Charlton told Tom Zutaut. I told Tom about my commitments with Nazareth. What happened was I never heard from them after our sessions, and then Appetite came out. I got the feeling that Slash wasn't particularly impressed. I don't think he was as big of a Nazareth fan as Axl was. The only positive thing I heard was from Izzy. He said, Manny's really cool. And according to Manny Charlton, he said, ultimately, I think they wanted somebody who wasn't going to interfere with what they were trying to do and who would get a great performance out of them. They didn't want to be disciplined by anybody. They had their own internal discipline, and they didn't want that coming from anybody from the outside and tell them what to do. So in the year 2000, Hanoi Rocks frontman Mike Monroe was being interviewed, and the topic of Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses came up, and he also talked a bit about Nazareth. So he talked about working with Axl on the video shoot for Dead Jail or Rock and Roll, and he was talking to Axl during the video shoot, and a song that Mike Monroe had actually covered was called Not Faking It, and he revealed to Axl that it was a song originally done by Nazareth, and Axl didn't know that. And then Axl said, oh wow, it's great, and now I like it even more. I said, even though it's a Nazareth song, I made it my own. Axl said he was a big fan of Nazareth, and he used to lock himself in the bathroom and listen to them when he was a kid because his parents wouldn't let him listen to rock and roll. Heavy childhood. It must be crazy. He seems to have effects of it still. It must be hard, and getting so effing famous on so effing fast, no wonder. So that does it for this episode of Guns N' Roses True Story. I hope you guys enjoyed that. So I don't think I'm intending on doing every song from the Spaghetti Incident just because certain songs don't really have that much background information on them. But if you guys want me to do them, let me know in the comments section. And as always, guys, be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode. And be sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this. And you guys can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter if you want to see some cool Guns N' Roses photos that maybe you haven't seen before, or keep up to date on the latest Guns N' Roses news. And you guys can also support my YouTube channel on Patreon as well. So the links to all that stuff is down below in the description box. Take care.